Hello, Julie here and welcome to my YouTube channel. The layout that I'm creating today is for the December challenge at Mystical Scrapbooks. I am on the design team for Mystical Scrapbooks, but this is going to be my last layout for that team. I'm using papers from Mintay called Grandma's Attic, and the challenge actually that I'm creating this layout for is a sketch, and you saw the sketch earlier on, and the feature product or the feature element for this month is bling. So I'm going to be incorporating some bling in the way of some glitter, which is called sparkling dust, and also some sequins. So I'm just having a bit of a quick flip through here of the papers that are in the paper pack, and then I'm going to start. I'm going to start by adding some texture to my background. I'm using white cardstock for my background, and I'm going to use this Crafters Workshop stencil called Mini Labyrinth and some modelling paste. And I'm going to use my palette knife to put that modelling paste through the stencil. I'm just going to put this randomly on my background sheet. I'm not looking for a full coverage. Once I have enough of the modelling paste added to my background, I'm just going to set that aside to dry. It doesn't take that long, but it needs to dry before I can work on it anymore. Now I'm going to use one of the sheets of cardstock from the pack. It's a nice thick heavyweight cardstock, so it holds its shape nicely and it's beautiful to work with. I can't remember the name of this one, but the product code is MTGAT03. And I'm cutting that. I only need the one sheet to do this layout. I've cut one piece 7 inches by 5 inches, one piece 5.5 inches by 6.25 inches, and one piece 6 inches by 5.25. I'm going to work on my photo now. I have a 6x4 photo, and I have this strip of the pattern paper left over. So I'm going to trim the barcode off of that, and I'm going to cut the rest in half. So I'm going to end up with 2 strips that are about, or what would I say, just over 1/2 inch wide each. And I think they actually work out to be exactly the same length as the photo, which is 6 inches. Now I'm going to use my distressing tool and my Versacolor black ink cube to distress and ink the edges of all of my pattern papers. You may notice that I am changing the sketch a little because, for starters, my photo is portrait and the photo in the sketch is landscape, and there are 2 photos in the sketch and I've only got one, so I'm making a few adjustments as I go. Now for my photo, I have filed around the edge of it with an emery board, and I've cut 2 strips of black cardstock that are about 1/2 inch wide and the same length as the photo, and I'm now attaching them to the sides of the photo just to give me a little bit of black to define my photo from my layout. Once I've got that black in place, I'm then sticking the photo onto those strips of the pattern paper that I cut earlier. So I'm effectively double matting the photo, but only on the sides, not the top and bottom. So my background is dry, and I am going to put some gold splatters on the background. Bit of bling. This is the start of my bling. So I'm going to use the Vicky Bouton Creative Effects Gold Glaze. I'm going to use my acrylic block and water some of this paste down, and then use my fan brush to splatter it onto the background. I have got a old pizza box here that, well, it's not a used pizza box, it's something that some scrapbooking supplies came in, and I'm using that to try and keep a neat desk, but as usual it goes everywhere. Once again, I set the background aside to dry, and while I'm waiting for that, I'm going to work on some chipboard pieces. Now these are Memory Maze chipboard pennants, and I will put a link to all of the products that I'm using down in the description box if you want to check them out. These have got words on one side sort of engraved into the chipboard, and on one side they're plain. I'm using the plain side in this instance because I'm going to add some sparkle to it. And to do that, I'm going to give it a coat of white paint first so that I get a nice white background. And I'm using acrylic paint for that. And then I'm going to put some matte medium on there, and then I'm going to sprinkle on top of that some of the Dress My Craft sparkling dust. I think that's it. That's its colour. There is nothing else on it. And then just press that in so that it sticks into the glue, and that's going to be like a sparkle, glittery look to it. Okay, so now it's time to start adding my papers, or all of my layers actually, to my background. I'm using double-sided tape to attach them, but I do find that it doesn't stick all that well to the modelling paste, so I end up having to go back and add some glue, some liquid glue, underneath the bottom layer to make sure that it sticks onto my background page. So now I'm just adding the layers. I'm basically following the sketch, except as I said, I've turned it. So instead of being landscape, it's now portrait, but basically following the same layout. I'm also adding the photo, and in hindsight, I think it would have been a little bit helpful if I had have mounted this on foam tape or scrap cardboard or something like that, just to lift it off of the background and give it a bit more dimension. But anyway, I'm quite happy with the way it turned out. Now, as I mentioned before, I've only got one photo for this page, so that cluster on the right hand side down the bottom in the sketch, I'm going to adjust that a little so that it suits my layout without a photo. So I'm going to, well, trim it down significantly, I guess you'd say. I'm going to cut 3 pieces of pattern paper. One is 1 inch by 4.5. The next one is 1 1/4 by 3 3/4, and the next one is 1 3/4 by 3 1/4. To start with, I just cut the strips, and then I cut the lengths as I worked out how long I wanted them to be. Once I'd got my papers trimmed to the size I wanted, I used my distressing tool and my black ink cube to treat the edges the same as I'd treated all of the other papers on my layout. Time now to attach them to my layout. I'm using double-sided tape once again, but as I said, I do end up going back and putting some of my art glitter glue under there to make sure that it stays in place. So I'm adding this to the bottom right hand section of my layout. I'm probably about 1 1/4 inches up from the bottom and butted up to the right hand edge of the layout. Now the sketch has 2 fishtail pennants coming from the photo cluster and also that cluster on the right hand side. This is where I'm going to use those glitter pennants. I'm going to use one on the top and one on the bottom, and I'm also going to add a pattern paper one as well. So I've cut 2 pieces of pattern paper 1 1/4 inches for one and 1 inch wide for the other, and they end up being about 1 1/4 by 1.5 and 1 inch by 1.5. And I'm going to, well, I have to actually lift up my pieces of pattern paper that I've stuck down to put these pennants underneath. So that's what I'm going to do now. The paper pennants are going to get the same treatment on the edge as all of the other papers with my distressing tool and my black ink cube. So now I'm going to add my third bling element. I'm going to use some 28 Lilac Lane sequins. This colour is called Golden, and I'm just going to add a few little dots of the art glitter glue and attach a sequins using my pickup tool. So there's an assortment of sizes of sequins in this pack, and I'm going to choose the smaller ones, and I'm just going to add about 12 or 13 of them. I'm not going to sprinkle them everywhere, just here and there. Once again, I've cut my title using my Kaisercraft DD700 alphabet uppercase dies from black cardstock. I'm using my reverse tweezers and my art glitter glue and my T-ruler to attach those to my layout. Now I'm going to take a clear ruler. This one happens to be a Tim Holtz ruler, but any clear ruler will do, so you can see through it. Make sure you're getting your lines in the right spot. And I'm going to use my Uniball Eye black pen, it's a fine black pen, to draw two straight lines. One is a solid line and one is not solid, right around the whole page. I do have a packet of the paper die cuts, so I'm going to choose a couple of pieces from that. I think a couple of butterflies, a flower and some leaves. I'm going to ink around the edge of those and then attach them to my layout. When I attach the butterflies, I'm going to just attach the body using liquid glue. Actually, I use liquid glue to attach all of these pieces, but with the butterflies I'll put glue on the body and a little bit of foam tape under the wings so that they sit up. So as I said, this layout is for the challenge over at Mystical Scrapbooks for December. This is of course the last one for the year, and so I'll put a link in the description box below. You can pop over and check out the challenge. They do have great prizes each month, so yeah, I'll put the link below if you're interested in having a look at that. I'd also like to say thank you to all of my subscribers, and I really appreciate you watching my videos, leaving me comments, liking my videos, all of those lovely things that you do for me. I try to answer all comments, and thank you, I really appreciate it. Now I'm going to add a coat of glossy accents to my title and set that aside to dry. And that will finish my layout for today. Thank you for watching my video. I hope you've enjoyed it, and if you have, I will put a link in the description box below to a playlist that has got a lot of my other scrapbooking layout videos on it. And if you go to my YouTube channel, you'll find that there's several playlists there. There's cards, there's scrapbooking, there's art journaling, there's junk journaling, all of the things that I like to play around with. So yeah, pop over, check it out, and yeah, I'm hoping that you will join me when I post my next video. Thank you.